Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on this webinar with Tea Stražičić. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of KIBLA and invite you, yes, to join us to be a part of KIBLIX program, and also the rest of the program you can check on the website of the KIBLIX festival. First, before we start, I would just like to mention that the session on Zoom is also recorded and streamed at Facebook Live and at YouTube. So just for you to know, and it's also the session is gonna be a part of our documentation that is gonna be available online. So I'm very happy to have Tea Stražičić here with us. And today we are not only gonna know something more about her practice, but also we are gonna read, or if you have read it maybe before, a chapter from a book Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson that was written back in 1992. So the idea is to kind of draw certain parallels with this anticipation of metaverse and avatars that are like captured within this chapter, and the way Tea is approaching these themes and ideas through her art practice. Before I introduce Tea, I would just like to mention that this webinar is intended for everybody who joins this Zoom session to basically participate if you feel like it. So in a sense, if you feel invited or encouraged to share your thoughts on any of the issues that we tackle, please be free to join the conversation. Also, it's not, I mean, we recommended to read the text prior the webinar, but of course, if you didn't read it, that doesn't mean you cannot share some ideas on the theme. So just to break the ice, I would ask everybody that are here now on Zoom to briefly introduce themselves. So just your name, pronoun, and basically answer the question if you are using avatars. So I can start. My name is Irena and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm not really using avatars.
Hi, my name is Vina. I go as she, her, and I sometimes use avatars.
Ciao, Vina.
Ciao.
Hey.
Okay, if you don't want to say anything, you are also very much welcome to not say anything at this point, but hopefully you will be maybe willing to join the discussion later. So I would just like to, Tea, maybe you want to introduce yourself briefly and then I will introduce you a bit longer.
Oh, okay. I'm Tea. I'm currently in Berlin. I'm from Dubrovnik. I don't know, that's about it. Oh, with the pronouns, it's they or she, but I don't use pronouns as much. And I don't really, I mean, I do use avatars, but during years, it's changed a lot how I use them.
Okay. I hope we will find out a bit more about this throughout the webinar. So Tea finished animation at animation department at Fine Art Academy in Zagreb, and she did a lot of what is interesting, I think, is that you are actually collaborating a lot. One of the collectives you are part of is Western Sisters, and it's a collaboration with her sister, Marta Stražičić. Also, she has a duo with Nick Zhu, which is AVI duo, and they have done a lot of basically AVI perform from sonic acts to extravagant bodies festival in Zagreb, to not name all of them. And I found that quite interesting that you are often, and I also know that you often actually engaged in a lot of different kind of collaborations and this kind of moments of making art. Also, in her practice, she's exploring traditional media and digital art. So, Thea, you have the word, and please share the screen.
Oh yeah, of course. So where should I start? I guess the best way to start would be on my webpage, and you're gonna see the exhibition I did in Prague last year, I think, actually. Yeah, this was in Gallery Polanski, and it was an exhibition called Lone Long Boy. It was a multimedia installation with paintings and 3 video channels, cutouts, 3D prints, and even ground potatoes and poly sculptures. So the exhibition was telling a story, a short science fiction story that I made using generated scripts, and then re-editing the computer-generated scripts to suit the Western type of script, so like a Western cowboy story, basically, that was about colonizing planet Mars and terraforming it, and how the idea of that went wrong, and how it's now a monoculture on which you can grow only potatoes, and there is a new species of mutated rats. They were brought there, and it's sort of like almost like a graphic novel type of story, but the format I chose was an exhibition. For example, this big portal here is a wallpaper print, but it was made using 3D software. So for starters, the main idea behind this was to have a character who was called Mario Mars, which was one of the first settlers on Mars, as this like silicon rat with his horse, and he's telling a sort of a romantic story about his hardships of living in such a strange place on a desert. So yeah, like in my practice, I usually always start with characters, as you can see here. For sonic acts, I had also a humanoid / animal anthropological character that was sort of an avatar to me and Marta while doing an AV set inside a video game. Before that, on the webpage, we can see this character too. I don't know if you can see my mouse, this vampire that was for Adult Swim. She also, like all of them usually have like a really short stories that either I or me and my sister or whoever I'm collaborating with turn into a cinematic animation or a video game. Oops. Talking about avatars now again. So we have something to connect with Snow Crash, which I think it's really interesting, especially this paragraph that was shared for reading before this, is that it's like not so far from reality of what we have now. And what even like in 90s was possible. Like I found this book in the apartment. So apartment I'm staying in is apartment of Ingeborg Fulep, which is a video art professor, also a big VR enthusiast that is currently a professor in Rijeka, Croatia. And she has multiple books regarding this topic, and from which one I found is this one called Artificial Reality 2, and we can check some like retro photos. I don't know if you can see my screen now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see my screen.
Yeah, we see your screen, but also the book, but in a little, in a little
apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is some retro photos of how people back then imagined VR would be, and I think during 90s, like there was a lot of good movies that were based around it, like Cronenberg's Existence or Stranger Things that was made by Catherine Bigelow, which I think is really, really on topic when it comes to virtual reality, filming the memories, filming like living inside somebody else's virtual reality. And with Snow Crash, it's kind of more, the topic is more hackery, and they're really talking about 3D meshes and the quality of them. And quite a recent thing that I did, especially when the lockdown started and all the gigs, live gigs, exhibitions, especially parties were canceled, and they had to sort of find their way into virtual reality. And one interesting thing about it, I don't know if you can still see my desktop. Yeah. So there was this one party that became quite popular. It's called Neuro Dungeon by New Cenosis. And it's a very, very cyber goth themed party with loads of avatars. And there's like all of these people you can see here, avatars of existing DJs. Like Jesse Pierce, who are my dear friends from Spain, that I was lucky to actually physically perform with in Hakave during Crypto Rave 2 years ago. But then, yeah, because all the flights were canceled and all the parties are canceled, we switched to this like strange little app that became quite popular. And it's actually, all of this stuff is not in a really high quality. Like a quality of real-time video games still is like a really industry thing to have. Like, so you have to be part of industry, you have to have like a lot of people working on it to reach a certain level of quality. But for something that's supposed to be happening in real time, especially on small mobile apps, that's like that are easy to transport, we have stuff like this app IMVU, where you start with the basic body and then you can invest into your outfit in weird ways. You can like gamble online to get more credits, or you get like you actually send crypto or through PayPal extra credits to buy these like crazy outfits. And here everybody started at first, when we started, everybody was just like kind of looking like Kim Kardashian and going for that style. And then during lockdown, when more people from different subcultures appeared, then things started looking way more crazy and way more experimental. Like, for example, my avatar was this and this. Let me share the preview. Oop. Yeah, so my avatars were not really humanoid. I had this like red ghost with darkness around it, and then this fly creature with the snake and a sword flashed into it. So I was like just trying to use this app as not as it was meant to be used. For one of the performances I did with my friends, that was just like basically like any kind of party, but you have like different rooms you can join to and customize them. And yeah, that would be like something that was happening during the lockdown. And when it comes to like my own avatar, that's this frog, and my alias that is Flufflord. It's been the frog logo and the alias Flufflord are really old. Actually, they come from when like about like they're 8 years old or so, and they were brought into existence by just like me starting up like certain character and like then like telling people about it, and people loved the character and started calling me by the name of that character, and now I can't get rid of it. And yeah, it's been stuck with me for quite a while, and the character kind of merged with my practice, and because of social media, people like now know me as Flufflord. Another avatars I'm making are these 3D sculptures that are also made for real-time consumption. So you can use them in VR, you can use them in video games because of the way they're made. They're made using ZBrush as a base mesh software for sculpting and retopologizing character, like any kind of 3D objects actually. And then they're painted in Substance Painter, which is also a software used in real-time animation, which is also used in making of any kind of VR video game that has a lot of that is like heavier than, for example, some simple stuff that you can make in Unity, or that are not things that are not lo-fi, things that are like heavy duty. And that's also the thing that Snow Crash is saying, like how much equipment would you need to participate in this kind of a virtual space that's a multiplayer. Well, for some people, you don't really need much. You only need like modded, like well-modded PC with like decent graphics card. But for production of such spaces, you need far more equipment. And of course, the headset, depending on which you want to choose. And for example, my sister Marta has all of that because she is a developer. I only have pen drawing tablet and stuff to create sculptures in. But for one of the projects we did last year, we had motion graphic suits which captured the entire motion of a full body in real time as well. So like as you move, the creature you created can move and at the same speed and at the same time as you can. Oops. I don't know. Can you hear me again? Yeah. Oops. But
Yeah.
you were muted.
Yeah, I was muted, don't worry.
Okay. Is there any questions before I pack up my introduction?
I have a lot of them, but if somebody else except me wants to ask something, you are very much welcome to. Okay. And so you did AV performance within the video game. So I'm just, I'm actually not really, I'm curious about a lot of things, but I'm not really a gamer. So in that sense, I don't know how does it function. So basically you are playing a game and then you stay at the concert, or how does it work?
Yeah, basically that. You come as a gamer to the concert. Like the setup that's usually needed is just like a really big screen that's connected to also like a heavy duty laptop that's game ready or VR ready. And they're far more available now than they were a few years back. Like you can really easily get a setup that's easy to transport, but it's also like an expensive business. So not a lot of people do it. Like besides me, there's my colleague's two brothers, the Rolfs brothers, Sam Rolfs and Andy Rolfs, which previously did sonic acts prior to me and Marta. And who else? I mean, my colleague also, Lukas Šmek, Dario Alva, Alpha Rats as well. I mean, and in China, definitely there's a few clubs that are just packed with such content, especially game-ready stuff, as my colleague Wi-Fi over his body does usually for all club in Shanghai.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all musicians that work, or musicians and visual artists that work together to kind of lift up the visual experience of entering a club.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, like, it's kind of, I mean, it's not that much about concept all the time. Some people like have really, really strong concepts when it comes to that, but about like a total experience of when you really want to enter the sci-fi novel, you know, like you want everything to bling at you. We usually use a lot of HUDs and stories we tell during the performances. For example, my friend Goro once had this really long set that they did after our performance in Vilnius in Lithuania for Supines Festival. And the story was about Roma people who suddenly discovered a certain berry and then completely changed the map of the Europe as we know it by selling this berry and unionizing this like big patches of earth. So like it doesn't usually have to be just what I want to say. It doesn't, the performance, the AV performance doesn't usually have to be something that like Marshmallow or some EDM DJ would make, where you just want to get your eyes pumped out by 3D. It can just like tell you a story about them and continue and have the music back it up. So it's kind of like a small modern operas or smaller theaters that are placed in the clubs now, not just like in institutions. And the place where I'm working at now, I mean, we are on a break until April because of COVID, but
yeah.
There's a place in Berlin called Trauma Bar und Kino, which supports big multimedia projects. And with the sound, with the equipment like motion tracking suits, with enough screens that can portray multiple channels, and also a sound system that can track people who move through the space wearing motion tracking suits, so the sound can follow the performance through the infrastructure of the club. And this was a project we did last year as a big team, starting with Mary Audrey Rodriguez, who made the concept and sculptures for it. And I think I can share it on the desktop now. Just a second. Oops. So the avatars we were using I don't know if I can share this. Maybe the sound will start now. Anyway, the dancers had their own specifically made outfits that were hiding the motion tracking suits below them, and the sculptures were placed all around the club, while the 3D department which I was part of, together with Lukas Schmeck, made these mushroom-looking warrior avatars that were fighting all on screens that were placed around the club while the performers were moving. And here are some of the models. Okay. Oh, wait, I can stop sharing this sound. Yeah, and this is how we made them. This one with the gray background, that's like a typical pose you choose to create a character on which you add the skeleton rig later on using software like Maya or Blender. Here are the screenshots of the other ones, and it's painfully dull and time-consuming process to start making these creatures from scratch, because I think we're still not that far into future to make this easy for anyone. So each part of this very HD looking creature had to be made separately and remeshed and retopologized, which is sort of thing like if you would make a puppet made out of textile, you would kind of do the same in real life and then embed the skeleton in. But so like, yeah, basically it's like puppetry is just all made on a single computer. Yeah, this is the head of one of the creatures. We wanted to make like a really rustic looking things that are not as little as humanoid as possible. And they were all themed with different mushrooms like amanita or lion's mane, or combination of multiple fungi. Weapons as well. And some of these existed as props in real life made out of textile. Unfortunately for this project, we only had an opening on January 2020. That was absolute blast and it was really, really fun. But then the project was on for 3 months, and as we were thinking about closing it on 18th of March, the lockdown happened, so we never really had a final show with it. Some of the 3D models can be seen on Sketchfab, which is like a really nice browser-based 3D viewer. So,
but it was always a combination of people performing live.
Anyone? Oops.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
But was the project always a combination of performing live and VR?
Yes.
And the VR aspects were visible there at the screens, or?
Yeah, we had like a big cinema screen that was behind the main performers, and then we had a multiple channel system running through the club that was on plasma screens, basically, or different sized plasma screens, because the club has like 2 floors. So we separated each channel and made, because there was a lot of people. People were displaced around, and not everybody could see the performance in real life. So some of them could be watching it from a different room in a club, or from the cinema, or from the basement even. Which was really fun, because the only way they could watch it, they could watch the avatars. They couldn't watch the real dancers.
Yeah, I mean, when there is this kind of televising of the performance, then it has this appearance of virtual reality, because they are already like dressed in a way that is not fictional characters rather than, you know, so it already has that kind of atmosphere. Okay, so maybe I would just briefly introduce the text. I found it interesting because so far we have always chosen texts that were more, I don't know, like theoretical. But this is the first time we are actually having literature, and I'm really happy that we have science fiction literature. And it was also, I was looking into some, I don't know, interesting text, theoretical texts about avatars. And I did found some more like scientific work and these kind of things, but not really like something that that is really like easy to, I don't know, I find that a bit of lacking, and this is why I think it's really nice that actually we also agree that we talk about this particular chapter. I mean, the whole book, Snow Crash, discusses this whole hacker culture, and it talks a lot about the 90s and in its atmosphere in a way, but it also anticipates a lot of things that are actually now used. And it's very interesting that actually some of the things that are just mentioned within this chapter are kind of still the same. And I really appreciate that you showed this what is it, this platform that they are using all these Kim Kardashian avatars. And so like, for example, I would just like to quote here. So hero protagonist, he's the main character who is like the main hacker slash character, yes, hero protagonist who walks around the universe metaverse. And so I'll just read this. So hero wonders idly how these two couples got together. They are clearly from disparate social classes, perhaps older and younger siblings. But then they come down the escalator and disappear into the crowd and become part of the street, where there are enough Clints and Brandies to found a new ethnic group. So basically, this Clints and Brandies, this is some kind of stereotypical avatar that everybody can choose. And because, as you already mentioned, and this is also what the author mentions, that they are actually quite, it is not so easy to make an avatar. And that's why there was this production of exactly the same ones. So everybody can choose like between couple of them, and then they decide which one they want. Also, throughout the book, there are particularly cheap avatars, and they are like black and white. They look like somebody put them from copy machine, so they are like from kind of public services. And it's also, what I found interesting is that moment of expressing this. So where is somebody in the physical reality and what's happening within the virtual reality. So like hero, the protagonist, is actually living in the basically storage, and it's really terrible living conditions in which he is at. He is actually not really employed because he has somehow the trouble with the system in which he is able to work or to live, how to say it. But at the same time, he is one of the elitist hackers that enter the Black Sun, which is actually this, in the virtual reality, he's actually elite in a way. So anyway, I found it interesting that how the divisions are also clear from here. And now I would actually be curious to hear, like, what are your thoughts on avatars today? And also, like, for example, what was your experience with how your avatars changed? Because, for example, you are constantly in digital context in a way that you are not just using, I don't know, some platforms say that is it, but rather you are exploring and producing content that is relating to the context in which it happens. Also, I'm very curious to know, now I'm like talking a lot, but like, for example, you are not using so much humanoid avatars, and I would be curious to know why not. So if you can tackle some of these aspects I have mentioned just now.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I'm not as slick as Hero, the protagonist, when it comes to choosing garments online. And yeah, I was never really, I mean, I had a moment where I was really into humanoids, I must say, when I first started exploring 3D. And it was kind of popping on Tumblr. Everybody had their own humanoid. I had this like vampire looking person, but even before that there were a lot of like really interesting things that were happening, especially like early on, like as a teenager, when you start using avatars. I think that's the most mystical and magical part of going online. Like all of my colleagues in high school, no matter where we came from, we all had avatars and blogs that we wrote on with these pseudonyms and like strange unknown photos we either made ourselves or took from somewhere. And then as the social media changed and as the blogs ceased to exist, and when like Facebook came along, I one of the most interesting things that happened is like I think it was like 2011 to maybe 16 when it was on the hype. A lot of these archival pages started popping up, archiving any kind of aesthetics like pool aesthetics or rental aesthetics, environmental, new aesthetics. Me and my sister had this undeveloped aesthetics that was Balkan based archival page. And then besides that, there was a lot of strange art biennales happening that were also all over the world, connecting and wiring these like very obscure people together that somehow had this trust network. Like you would really, really trust who, even though you wouldn't know the person's real name, you would only know number of pseudonyms or number of avatars they chose, but you would know their work, and you would kind of, through the work and aesthetics they were using, you would trust this avatar that they know what they're doing, and with the information you give them. But there was like a phenomenon about, I think it was like 2014 or 15, where on Facebook, the profile pictures that are avatars started. People started getting massive amounts of friend requests from people with pictures of gray aliens, just like different types of gray aliens, like generative, like very like yeah, very typical alien heads started appearing as profile pictures and massively friend requesting everybody who was like part of this like weird Facebook community, which is not that many people, but still, like it kind of freaked everybody out, because not just that they had these profile pictures as weird alien, their language and their script and their names were written in Arabic, different Arabic scripts. And so we were all like for about a month very confused and just accepting friend requests from these Arabic aliens that had strange profiles, until I finally found, me and my friends finally found a person who started it, which was just a random 16-year-old that wanted to make a statement, but then statement kind of grew for itself. Like he wanted to say how the Westerners perceive Arabic countries differently, even online, as this like real aliens with the different script that they're using, kind of coded appearance. And so he made this like massive movement that started, I think, in Egypt, and later on like continued for about 6 months, then completely disappeared because Facebook started introducing this thing where you have to give them your ID in order to have a profile on their page. And I think Facebook is kind of now dead and not very fun place to be when it comes to avatars. For my thing, well, I think like most of the artists that I hanged around with kind of formed their strange personality, and now avatars kind of switched into brands, like this like branded looking thing, you know, like some musicians, they just have to stick to it. Once you go and you kind of live it, then you will forever be either like, okay, you're like a cyber person. I don't know, for example, like Arka, like she went cyber, and then like Holly Herdon, she's this like intellectual intellectual hacker type of person. And then Lana Del Rey will always be this like American princess, and then like everything started copying this thing. And like I can't say that a lot of people have like mysterious unknown avatars anymore. But yeah, there's like a paragraph of this text that I really liked from Snow Crash, that's also like talking about the very like a current situation where I guess everybody is in, especially if you're like trying to be not just off grid, but just like not part of the system as an artist or whatever. So he says, I'm gonna quote it. He tries to get himself psyched up. He tries to break out of the lethargy of the long-term underemployment. This Intel thing can be great once you get yourself jacked into the grid, and with his connections, it shouldn't be any problem. He just has to get serious about it. Get serious, but it's so hard to get serious about anything. And yeah, I feel like that's like the place where a lot of virtual people ended up.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I still know I still know large amount of my collaborators and friends online only as like these online avatars. I don't know their real names. I don't know how they really look like, but it's still like with some of them I still talk for like about 6 years or so, and it's been ages since we are working like this. And nobody really got serious meanwhile.
But do you sometimes collaborate with them, or it is just following the work?
With a lot of them I'm just following the work, but there's few people I still collaborate with and have no idea who they are. Some of them just like broke into like more of a real broke this reality thing, and I really did meet them, especially when everybody was traveling and where it was really possible to just like go to like 20 different places in a year. And some of them published books, like for example like this book, it's called Erotica. It's by Chino Amobi.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really strange sort of graphic novel / sci-fi / reality thing that is kind of about his travels as a musician. So he travels as a musician across few continents, and then I can recognize a lot of people he mentions here because either they're artists or we know each other online, or somehow we communicated through different avatars, and he's using their aliases mostly, and just giving this like strange insight into the combined world of fashion, some like online and offline mysticism, a lot of like graphic stuff combined with the merch he was making. But in general, the stories story is kind of psychedelic and science fiction-y. It touches the real life, and it touches these avatars that everybody is using. It touches real musicians, but the story feels very unreal. And the other one that I would absolutely recommend, which kind of is in a way like a Snow Crash. It's like easy to read. I don't know if I can share my screen again. The book
Yes.
is, I can, yeah. It kind of doesn't let me. I see. Okay, so one book that is quite similar to Snow Crash, and it just came out 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, is Club Dead by Nikhil Singh, who's a South African author, and they made this psychedelic noir that also uses VR and newly discovered drugs as a way to breach realities. You end up in different art scenarios, and the timelines are mixed, and you're following multiple people that that are kind of similar protagonists as Hero is, like these South African vagabonds, and it's talking about Hollywood and Hollywood's consumption of drugs at the same time, but all of it is happening in Africa. And that's sorry. So Nikhil is a person that I met also online through Tumblr first, then Facebook, then we collaborated on an exhibition, and Nikhil first started as an illustrator, making Tati Goes West, a graphic novel that's sort of like a childish psychedelic, like really, really beautiful. And this is their first really serious novel. And I was really surprised to see it. On the cover, there's this 3D render with the aquatic VR gear.
Wow. I'm just curious if somebody else has a comment or question. No? Okay.
No.
I'm just, yeah.
People are shy.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, yeah, I found it also interesting how it works with all these things that kind of intertwine, like from this reality in which you are living. I mean, also in the Snow Crash, there is a lot of parallels with drug usage and so on. And then there is also these moments of parties and going to the concerts, and then also skating culture. And what is interesting also, that moment of what you already mentioned, this 16-year-old who sends all these avatars. And then there is also here a 15-year-old, that rebellious kind of moment that kind of goes into this story. So I found this interesting how all these stories just intertwine within the novel, but then again also you can kind of track them through this experience. Also, like what you have mentioned, these AV events within video games. So when it comes to avatars, it's interesting that, for example, you can use them in many different ways. Like, for example, now I think it is quite commercialized, maybe, because of the development of the equipment. And it's in that sense way more accessible. But what you already mentioned before, it was that, as you said, they are not well done. Like, they are not, what is offered is not, I don't know what. And I'm curious, why is that? Is it because they are more independently done, or is it more because they are is it being massively produced? I'm just curious, in a sense, like, what are the differences between the, I don't know, artist scenes and this moment of like, for example, creating something that is going to be like for, I don't know, let's say massive usage.
Like a VRs for massive consumption and artists.
Yeah, in that sense.
Well, regarding the quality of content, sometimes it's just the question of budget, location, and number of people working on it. Also the experience of people working on it. And I mean, there's like a grand, really expensive projects that really look realistic, like even the skin of the characters, and cinematics always look great. Cinematics for VR projects always look amazing. But when you actually put the goggles on, you can't reach the quality that that you would expect to be. I mean, it's entertaining and it's beautiful to be inside for it, but I wouldn't stay in it and play an entire game. Like, I think 10 to 15 minutes is just totally fine with me to have any kind of VR experience. It gets sweaty. Like once in the summer, we were doing this VR incubator project with Format C from Zagreb, and yeah, like it's 40 degrees in Split, and having like this like huge chunk of gear on your head while developing something entire day really is not the most pleasant thing you can imagine when you think about futuristic experience. I mean, it was kind of more medieval. That's how I experienced it. Like when I went to this big fair in Los Angeles, when VR was just popping out, when the HTC Vive was coming out fresh and Oculus was coming out fresh, and you had these like booths in a big warehouse presenting works from different apps, brands, companies, smaller productions, smaller VR video games, even like a fractal enthusiasts, like Burning Man type of things. And it really looked like a medieval fair, to be honest. Like you just have hundreds of people waiting in line to put this helmet on to see something for like 10 minutes. That's basically just like a bag of screen in front of your eyes. So like, I think the gear is definitely not there yet. Some people who are using it at home, I guess they're having a better time. Like my friend Zusing has, I think Apex Legends or something in VR, so he's been chilling in it for quite a while. And like if you have a good home setup, I'm sure you can have a lot of fun using it. But as something for mass audiences is not very convenient. Other than that, augmented reality, I think, has like far better future. Like everybody loves filters, everybody likes to look great without having to spend money on makeup and stuff. And also it's just quicker. It's very quick to develop stuff for it. But I feel like maybe if it's combined with the sort of better looking glasses or better designs, if the design would change and the number of assets, physical assets you need to start up something, so the troubleshooting of the entire thing would be far easier, I think then the future would be brighter for these technologies. But for now, even to start up HTC Vive headset, you need to set up like two scanners, two signals, two boxes, lift them up as high as you can, measure the entire area. I mean, it doesn't take more than half an hour, but then like, what if your PC is not feeling good that day? Or what if you're missing one cable out of, I don't know, 10? Then, yeah, then it takes a while and it's not that quick. And yeah, I'm kind of like taking my distance from it for a while until something interesting happens again.
Okay. If anybody else wants to say something. Okay. Okay, so maybe to share some final thoughts. I think it's interesting that you said about the cable is missing. That moment of kind of again, this is that kind of bodily experience in a sense, even though you are kind of stuck on the screen, but it is yeah, you have to be stuck there, and somehow your body has to kind of adapt to whatever it's kind of happening. And basically, my last question would actually had to do more with the way you often represent your art. And I'm curious the way you are, for example, what we have seen in this exhibition with the installation that was it was in the gallery in Prague, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the installation goes into space, and you often use like whether found materials, whether something that is quite ordinary, and then you add something extra to it. And then this kind of work functions as it goes into the space, and it can be a video, but there is always some other sculptural aspects or installational aspects to it. So I'm curious, for example, why is it important for you to also go into the space in that way, and also like use this kind of materiality?
Well, it's kind of compromise because what I first studied and what I'm supposed to professionally do is be an animation director, and animation is really complex, and animation takes a long time. It's kind of hard to get funding for anything that I wanted to do, which is science fiction TV shows or feature animated films. And during that time, I started making comics as well. And because life got me moving around quite a lot, like not living at the same place for years and years, I'm like finally stable in Berlin, so I have like a bit more time to work on long-term things. I got into rapidly exhibiting in this like small format and making kind of deconstructing these sci-fi stories into installations. I'm gonna try to find one I did in Zagreb in Galerija Močvara, which explains perfectly like setup that we usually do. I mean, me and Marta. It was curated by Lovro Japunjic, which most of you might know from GMK, and the theme of exhibition was collapse on hold, about the environment, and we used this small devil icon as a protagonist to a group show we made with Ita and Yoda. The exhibition was deconstructed in a way that it had a painting also themed with the part of the character from the video game, toys, even ready-made objects. Ita Yoda's a 3D made porcelain sculptures and prints made out of silicone, which were symbolizing the actual VR joysticks. Yeah, they were like their own prototypes of how hardware could look like. So yeah, we had an intro graphics short story that's in a video, and then we set up a custom computer with only one copy of this demo video game because yeah, we didn't want to release it as it was like specifically made just for the exhibition. We just wanted to show it as a one-time installation or a sculpture. And everybody had to wear these protective boots because we had like really expensive fluffy carpet on the floor. But yeah, like this is a vision of how we imagined hardware and complexity of hardware design combined with the collapse of on hold, like the concept of environmental damage done by just having a lot of hardware, basically, and creating a lot of different parts for things. And yeah, like most of my exhibitions are kind of just the deconstruction of these graphic novels, comics, or different characters from the same universe.
Okay. Now, if there are not any other questions from anybody or comments, then I would like to thank you, Tea, and thank you everybody for being with us. It was really nice to have. Hopefully, we will see each other on the next webinar on Tuesday. So thank you all and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, and shout out to Veena. Veena, bye-bye. Hope to see you around.
Hey, is it possible maybe to ask a question, or is it too late?
Of course, no, it's not too late.
So,
come on, I was just not sure if anybody will say anything.
So I don't want to come off as cheesy, but do you think that the pandemic kind of endorsed the usage of avatars? For example, like this weekend was the CTM festival digitally online, and everything I participated in, I had to use an avatar. Do you think that people are now more kind of accustomed to using avatars? Did you notice like any changes when it comes to people being open to them in a way? And that is maybe also like, I don't know, maybe like the avatars will play like a bigger role now?
Yeah, I definitely think so, especially demand and like I don't really use a lot of things. I'm not that present, and I mean I've been to different like versions of like these online versions of festival that are also kind of like a small video games where you do have avatar or you're floating around as a light bulb or something. Those were fun, but the demand started being for creating avatars and for creating virtual spaces like skyrocketed. Like everybody wants to have a virtual space now, and before it wasn't so common, or everybody was kind of not really looking into it. Like there was few virtual museums popping out, and only like, I don't know, like worldwide geeks would be on it and chatting in these galleries. But now I think the demand for creation of these spaces is huge. And yeah, I guess like everybody kind of needs an avatar now. It could be cool if it was like more uniformed, so you just like have this like one thing you can edit on your desktop and then maybe use in a multiple different areas.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you. That's it. That's all for me.
Okay. Yeah, it would be nice if we could like, Zoom offers avatars. Actually, but Format C had a workshop on avatars on Zoom. So I think this would be also be interesting to explore. And I also learned from online classes from teachers and so on that children are doing really a lot, not avatars, but they are doing funny things while on camera and amuse all class just because they are bored and, you know, they're exploring how to use this moment of being able to view somebody like this. But that's again another topic. So, okay. So then now officially thank you to everybody. And yeah, have a good evening. And hopefully it was fun for you.
Yeah, bye-bye everyone. Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Ciao.